Hi everyone. Can you hear us okay? Hi everyone. Let us know if you can hear us okay. So, welcome everybody to this last episode of TDD and Antipatterns. We are happy to be here with you, and thanks to everyone that has followed the series. Hello, can you hear us okay? I think that someone was typing. So here we have Ignacio, that's going to be our facilitator today. Pablo Diaz, that is on our team from Firminic. I ask you to please, yes, if you can silence your microphone so we can hear everybody okay. So first of all, thank you for being here. We're very happy to have you here. To all the followers of this TDD circuit, and this is our last one. But just in case, maybe we'll have something upcoming next, right, Mateus? So
Yeah, totally.
okay, so thanks again for being here. Please, all your feedback or your questions that you have, you can share them on the chat and follow our events. And now I give my word to Ignacio, that's going to be our facilitator today.
Okay, thank you, Maria, and welcome everyone to this session, the last session in the TTD Anti-Partner series. As Maria said, I will be facilitating. So during the session, all the questions you may have, please feel free to write them down in the chat. I'll be collecting them and sharing them to Mateus. So I think that's all I have to say. The stage is yours, Mateus.
Okay, let me see. Thanks for that. I think I'm not sharing my screen. I forgot that, but I will share in a minute. And well, yes, this is the last episode on the series, and then we have a really special guest here with us, Pablo. And well, I will give room for Pablo to present himself. I think then I can start then. If you want to present yourself, Pablo.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Mateus. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you, Codurance, to inviting me to this talk. Okay, I'm Pablo Diaz. I've been working in software development for 6 years, I would say. Now, right now, I'm working with Mateus in a special project called SendMate. We have some colleagues here in the chat, as I can see, the great Mark. It's a great app, and well, we do a lot of the things that we are going to see today. So I will be pleased to tell you what are they and how we do this.
Awesome. So yeah, let me start sharing my screen then. Boom, boom, boom. Let me see. Let me know if you can see it. Probably yes. Can you see it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. What is going on? Yes. So yeah, that's a good point actually. So yeah, this is we've been talking about that as well. So before I start, well, just a brief. I was well. By the way, I will skip like a much introduction from my side. But we have been talking about like anti-patterns, and what Pablo said is really interesting because uh, it happened to be like we work on code bases that potentially have many of those, and that's fine. So what I mean is it's just the series is more to bring awareness on the uh, on on that, and potentially could help to improve the the code while testing the application. So if you see that you have that and you can improve on your daily job, that's perfect. That's the goal. But don't take this as a prescription. Like don't take like if you see entrepreneur as something like really bad you want to avoid. So don't do that never in your life. So if you see and if you notice on your code base, that's awesome. It means that you're on good track. So you can tackle them and go forward. So yeah, let's. This is the agenda for today. So we have four more, but two of them are new ones, and that we are trying to introduce those to like to make a let's say a standard in the how can I say in the industry. I don't say in the industry, but like to share our thoughts on that. And besides that, you also we are also going to do a little bit of recap so we can put everyone on the same page. And we are going to wrap up, and that's it. So in the end, we're going just to present those two and do some wrap up. And that's it. So hopefully you're going to leave this session knowing what those two more are, like the peeping tom. And by the way, if you don't know what is the peeping tom, I don't as well. So try to guess if you're curious. Like just try to guess what this means because well, I have no idea. And then we are going to present the flash and the jumper, right? So and that's it. Not much from that end. Okay, so let's do some recap and some background context. We are always bringing the context before I start the session, just to bring an idea why we are talking about that and how we the talk and how we structure this Antipatterns series. So if it's your first time that you have heard about Antipatterns, the TDD Antipatterns, this is I started from this blog post that is linked on the slide from James Carr. And he also created some array. I don't know if it was him or someone else that brought this to Stack Overflow. And then a bunch of people started to collaborate on those anti-patterns and ask, look, those are fine, but you could also add this one. This is good, so you can also add this one. So the list, there is no single place that you can see all of them in a single place. So you see some blog posts saying that there are 22. There are some other blog posts saying like 25, 23. So it depends. So here we are tackling 22 of them. And we are referencing the James Carr blog post, which is, let's say, quote unquote, let's say when this first appeared. But this is just because there is a Dave Farley video that he also links to this post. So this is a good indication that is a good resource. So far, we cover all of them, almost all of them. We are missing just two. And we also have the numbers around them that those numbers, they represent the popularity on the survey that we did. So on Twitter, we just asked developers to answer the survey, to give them opinions if they know what they think about those partners, if they have experienced that. And this is the how popular they are. So if you see close, we are going to see that afterwards. But if you see close, the mockery is for the most popular anti-patterns. So probably if you're watching us, so you might have faced the mockery as well. And if you haven't, that's because you even might have noticed that you had this such thing in your code base. What else? We also have something around notes, why we are choosing some languages to depict examples. So the examples that we are showing here are mostly in JS, PHP, and Java. That's because those are the most popular programming languages that came from the survey. So who answer, the practitioners who answer, they usually practice that on those languages. But the last episode, we also had some Python examples. So we had, and then there are some variations on that. So we are using TypeScript, we are using Kotlin. So those are just baseline. We also saw that when we are learning TDD, so practitioners learn in an informal way. So there is no TDD university. So whoever might want to do something like that, so that's good. Do this because we don't have a way to do like an official one. We also saw that most of them are related to test last. So which means that when we start to test our applications, we go for test last, and then the test last bite us again and becomes harder to follow the proper flow of starting from the test first. So we also saw that on the series. And besides that, we also touched some aspects around solid, object calisthenics, non-determinism, because it's really important on the when testing code. So for example, JavaScript that is asynchronous. So sometimes it's a pain or like a nightmare to test something that is asynchronous. And the last bit is that those are from open source projects. Most of the examples that we are presenting here are from open source projects, and they are linked in the slide. So if you want to go see by yourself that this happens and this is real, and well, that's fine. So that's why we are here. You can go and see them. A few of them are examples that we made up based on our experience. So, but the majority are from open source projects. And let me see if I'm forgetting something else. I don't think so. So those are the highlights on the why and the context. And here is a better representation of what I was saying. So how the mockery is popular. So how the mockery is popular amongst the developers that answer the survey. So if you see here, like this from far is the top one, the top one. But today, just to give us some contrast, we are going to talk about those bottom two. So the last two, which is not made up, but they happen to be in the last in the list, but they also not that popular. So we can try to start to correlate something like that. Well, that's it. So without further ado, that's a bit of context. So let's dive right in. So let's start with a bit of an idea on overall. So I already said on the peeping tom and the one, they are the bottom, the two at the bottom of the popularity. And then, well, right now we are going to get started. So then we have the one. The one, I don't know if everyone that's attending the session knows Metallica, but the first time that I heard of this Antipattern, I related to the band. And I have to say that it's weird because it's has nothing to do with the one, like the single one, because in reality, this is a combination. So by definition, the one is a combination, so more than one. But well, I think this is on purpose, the name. And the one is a combination of different antipatterns. So as this is the last session, we also saw a bunch of them, and sometimes it were hard to make a hard line, like to see, this is like, for example, the mockery, or this is the excessive setup. And this makes sense because usually they are mixed together. You just don't have for example, the giant, or you usually just don't have the peeping tom, for example. You usually have a combination of those, and this antipattern is like an aggregated way to see those. And here we are going to pick those two to have a look: the FreeRide and the giant. So the FreeRide was on the last episode. We covered them on the last episode. So here we are going to touch a little bit, and then the giant, it was, I think, on the second on the third episode. I don't remember, but it is there as well. So the giant usually is known as an antipattern that is related to the God object by definition. So when you see like a class that does everything, and you try to test that, this is potentially the giant. So you have a class that's trying to test everything on a single test case, or try to exercise all the methods on the class, on the test, or the application, the test, in one single test case. And how this translates to the code. So let's pick this library as an example. So here, if we have a look at the test name, the class and the method, the first thing that we see is that is testing some conversion. And then when we start to dive in, what kind of conversion it's trying to test, the first thing that causes the attention, right? The first point of attention is this for each. So, well, we have different things. We already saw that we have different things to mitigate that, but well, let's just skip that for now. The important part here is this how this test is exercising different methods in a single test case. So if you have a look here, it's testing the conversions. Actually, you don't know which conversion this is testing still. And then when you try to mitigate what is going on is things like that. So this is trying to convert centimeters to other measurements. So centimeters to inch. What else? Centimeters to pixels. And by the way, I don't use cm is for centimeters. So cm could be any other unit. If you know which unit it is, so well, that's fine. But here I assume that is centimeters. But if you see here, we have this. We can call like this the giant, and also we can relate that with the FreeRide that we are going to see in a few minutes. But it keeps going. So this was just extracted from the code base, from the test case, and it keeps going, like trying to test the different conversions. It keeps going. Then we have this until the end. So I don't know how many it was, but I would guess that there were like at least 10. And those 10 could potentially be translated into each of one of those in a different test case. So testing conversion from centimeters to inches, for example, just a single test case. Converting angle, for example, to degrees. So this is a test case. And then potentially, if you like to, you can move that upwards to a data provider, for instance, or something like that. What else? To something related to the giant, we also have this code from an X unit. This code was in the book X unit, and the author refers to the assertion roulette. I don't know how if this pronounced like that. Sorry for that, but this means like mixing assertions and doing everything at once. So if you have a look here, we could potentially call this the giant, even though we don't have 300 lines of testing code or too many assertions as we had here, or we had in the previous snippet. But if you have a close look, we are trying to test different methods in the class, like trying to exercise everything in the class at once in the single test case. So for example, kilometer, this could be potentially a new test case that's creating the flight, so asserting that the flight is created. And here is doing something related to the kilometers and meters, stuff like that. Later on, it cancels the flight and see what is the behavior, and then you see the behavior. And then here it tries to assert what happens when the flight, the behavior happens, or when the flight gets canceled. So just try to fail the execution hits here. And if not, we just do assert the message. So this is one potentially distinction in the variations, not distinction, but so this could be potentially a variation on the giant, on this anti-pattern, let's say. Then we have the FreeRide. But we already had a snippet, like a glimpse on the FreeRide, and the FreeRide is pretty easy to spot, and the definition is really easy as well. So by definition, this is when you happen to you need to create a new test or a new functionality, a new feature, or whatever, and then instead of creating a test, you just see something that is similar to that, and passing like an assertion instead of creating a new test case. And let's see how it goes. So here, another example from Jenkins, from the source code from Jenkins. And if you have a look here, this is it tries to test. I assume that this test is trying to do a test on how compatible the Jenkins is with those tools, right? Because this is just a guess, because I don't have the full context, but reading the code, I think that's it. And if you see here how the code is in place, we start to see like there are chunks, so there are blocks. And the first block is Maven. So assert that Maven, I can install maybe Jenkins with Maven or something like that. The next one is Ent. So it tries to test, to assert that Ent is supported, I would say. And then it gets try to assert the compatibility around the JD key. I think this goes like around the default JD key or something like that. Potentially, this is something that they don't want to break. And well, I don't have to say much, right? Because you already have the hint from the previous description. But ideally, you could have something, for example, like this. So instead of having everything on a single test case and then asserting, we could split and then assert on different things. So for example, even the test name could be even of help on this one. So for example, should be compatible with Maven. I don't know if this is even a good description, but from the test, I think that's it. Should be compatible with Ant. So just extracting those from actually the a single test case, and instead of having a single test case and all the assertions, all of a sudden we can have those kinds of behavior. Well, next up on the this was the FreeRide. We also saw this on the last episode. We also saw that on the last episode. And the Puppeteer is quite, I think it's a quite famous project now that is used mainly for web browser automation. So bots, scrappers, and everything like that is using Puppeteer. And if you're using Puppeteer, well, let us know. But you're going to see some test case on there. We also shared that the last episode. But well, here, if you have a look at if we have a look at on this anti-pattern that we are having a look right now, the FreeRide, this seems to be a valid test case. And it is. I mean, this is a valid test case. But here, the setup for this test is something like this. So this get test state is some custom helpers, custom test utilities for testing. And something that it brings attention to me, just reading this line, is the flag is Chrome. And the flag is Chrome. Here, later on, we are going to see what this is doing, but keep that in mind while we are reading the code. And then what it's trying to do is just to test the field requests. So just to see if it is reporting the error if the request happens to be. And the setup for this test is just to intercept the requests and then cancel, or in this case, abort the request that contains CSS. So we are just aborting, canceling all the requests that comes from this test case that are from that has a CSS that ends with CSS. Anything like .css will fall into this. And then after we added this interceptor, we just go and start to push. Like this is actually collecting this data. It's collecting the field request from the setup. And then actually, this actually goes to a page, like if it was a person that goes into a page and collects all the requests, and it starts to assert on that. So the amount of work to being done to set up this test case is not something like weird, but the thing that we could potentially bring our attention to is this Chrome. So for example, the FreeRide here becomes clear that we have too many logic. So there is some logic in the test case that shouldn't be here. So this was just some assertion that went through instead of creating a new test case. Because, for example, it could be just a test for Chrome, for example, and then another one for other browsers. So here, I don't know which browser it is, but for example, Firefox could be just for Firefox. And it would be exactly the same test. And also it brings some reliability issues, right? Because you see this like hanging here. So you have this if else. So your test can go one direction or the other. And you can start to ask yourself, so who is testing the test? So if I have branches, who guarantees to me that this is Chrome actually? So this is something that is depicted in the X unit as well. So in this book X unit. So and they also are really assertive when they say like don't use conditional logic inside your test. There we go. So we have this. This was the. Let me do some ramp up here because then we are going to jump to the Pinton. So ideally, all this code that we saw, like the giant, the and the FreeRide. If you think about those, they are like they come those examples that we shared. Usually they are really together. So for example, the first example with PHP, the second example is not that clear because we have different approaches. But the idea is that uh, they bring some attention. So they have some smells, let's say, to that end. So here, for example, the free ride that you start to have some logic between assertions. So this is the representation of the one. I think for me, the one is something that starts to mix any kind of anti-pattern. So here we picked the giant and the free ride, but could be again the mockery and the excessive setup. Could be the operating system evangelist, and then what is the pimping tom, for example. Could be any of those combined, and even more. Not those two at a time. So you can have 3, 4, 5. So if you have 5 of them, all those combined, please share with me, and then we can share here as well. And that's the idea of the one. Okay. So let's move to the peeping tom. That's I don't know why this is the name. The peeping tom. Such a interesting name. There is another name for this one as well. The peeping tom. So the peeping tom is called also the uninvited guests. I think we saw some examples on that in other series. But ideally, this is an antipattern that comes from keeping global state. And specifically to this one, it says about using a static member or using some kind of static that keeps your state global. So then it's difficult to have a refresh. So you can't refresh that on the test case. Because it maintains a state between tests, and then thus is difficult to test. And I found this interesting thread on Stack Overflow that says like this is the singleton could be a potentially an issue on that, and actually it is. So this John is key. So he made a really valid argument, and this one is. He says that is fine. There is some book that is referenced here that I don't remember, but he says like it's fine to use singleton, but it's difficult to test, right? The static behavior. And what he meant by that, and then besides that, the global state on the static word and the singleton that we're going to dive in here. In this thread, we also there are some comments that pointed to this blog post which is really interesting. So we are going to use those examples, those code examples here, because they are really interesting and easy to depict why this could potentially be harmful to test. So in this blog post, given that we already, by definition, from this anti-pattern, we already know that keeping global state is something difficult to test because you have to keep. They could potentially harm the next test execution. This blog post depicts this singleton that so many people hate, or so many developers hate, the singleton pattern. Someone hates, someone love. There are many that hate. There are many that love. So I can relate to the library framework that received a lot of hate on that, not in the Java world, but in the PHP world. But well. In this case, we're going to depict a potential issue that you might see if you try to test something that uses the singleton pattern at a class level. So, for example, this is just the properties. So the singleton instance is going to keep the instance. So this is going to store the instance. And prevent us to create a different instance for this singleton. And then here is just setting up a property for this class when it is created. So just receiving some properties, create it, and instantiate with this property. And here, what it does is just checks if there is an instance already. So just return the instance, and if not, creates a new instance with this system property. If someone is already used to testability, we will spot right now that this we are even using system property. That is something really hard to test because we are depending on the system having something like that. We also saw some anti-patterns to that, but here we'll just skip that part. And then we are just trying to return the property that was set in the instance. And that's it, just to demonstrate how the singleton behaves or how the singleton is will be to how we can interact with this instance. And then here, if we try to test, so there is nothing much to do on the instance. We can test this starting from, do I have the property that I did define from the system? So well, you have this property, and then if you start to create a singleton, so that you just go to the singleton, and then so I don't know. Okay, I don't know if if you want to say something, just let me know. You can say anything. And then you have like asserting on that. So you're defining the system and then asserting on that. Any thoughts on if this is going to pass or not? Like some trick question. I don't feel pressure. So like any thoughts that if it is going to pass or not?
There was a question, but related to the one anti-pattern. I don't know if we should like
okay.
do that question now, or maybe move it to later.
Sounds good. Let's move to later because I'm almost finishing this one, and then we can we can do that later. No worries.
Sure.
So this one, well, this one will pass. So I will answer myself then. This one will pass. And then the second one. What do you think? What do you think? Will it pass or not? We can do like the raise your hand on this on the chat, but well, send a emoji on the chat, thumbs up or thumbs down, if this is going to pass or not. Or don't do anything as well. It's fine. I can see the chat, by the way. Well, we'll give like 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 5 seconds more so I can drink water. Okay, I will just keep going, but should I answer this one? Is there any answer? Thumbs up, thumbs down, if it's going to pass or not?
There are some comments and bets on whether it will pass or not.
But is people saying like it would pass or not?
No, actually, there are all comments about no, it won't pass. It will fail.
Won't pass.
I mean, it would pass if it's run individually, as Sushma says, and it will fail if the class is running.
Correct. So this is 100% correct. So this won't pass. This will fail. This one is because this is holding the instance when we create the class. So this is an example like this running. The first one passes, and the second one it fails. And the way to do that is to do some magic with the reflection. And that's why this also becomes an anti-pattern, because you have to circumvent some language feature. You have to do some magic just to make the test to pass or to behave as you want. So this is to make this pass, just use reflection, right? So we also saw other anti-patterns around coverage, and then usually those kinds of reflections or stuff like that are usually also oriented to coverage. So if you want to have a coverage that's some method that are private or whatever, so you just go and then make them public, which is what this is doing, but making it to public and then cleaning up the instance from the singleton. If you do that, if you add this before, and then this is executed every time before the test case. And if you do that, well, bingo, there you go. So this is a really silly example, and the problem is when a even more difficult scenario is when the code that you want to test depends on this kind of singleton or global state or whatever. So here, for example, this Stack Overflow thread is also saying something around the singleton or how to test that. That makes harder, actually. This is really a good post. It's linked on the slides also. And here it becomes clear that this my class depends on the instance. And if you want just to test the my class, I would say that is not impossible, but you have to do some extra work to test that. Some heavy lifting, like with the reflection and try to setting everything in place. And what happens is if it's too hard, you just give it away. They say, oh, okay, I want to do this test. Let's skip this one and then keep moving. And a way to avoid that is how it was depicted on the same post, that instead of depending on this global state or this what is doing, you can just create an interface and depend on the interface. So you kind of you invert the dependency. So don't access. You depend on the abstraction. Sorry. So you just abstract away the hard dependency on this kind of state from your tests. And then you just use the instance that is being generated on your test. And of course, you just abstract your way to have a faster feedback, but you still have this kind of complexity when testing, for example, the integration or something like that. So at the class level or at this small behavior level, it's fine, but you just move up the hard part to test, for example, integration test or end-to-end test or whatever. So you're just moving up the complexity. You're not removing, just moving. Oof. And there we go. So this is the last one from this series. So this was the Pimping Tom and the one. Those two are the last ones moving that were related to this list from James Carr. And just a quick note from those two, like the one that we already said can be mixed between each other. It's also often a mix, so it's difficult to spot, and not just for the giant or the FreeRide. So it could be a mix of any kind of antipatterns or any kind of any number can be mixed, and there is no restriction on how many of them can be mixed. So it's just like a mix of antipatterns. And then once again, try to prevent global states that they are hard to manage on your test, or you have to do trick parts to test your code. Okay, so I don't know if we should take the one then before moving on to the Flash.
Yes, so there was a question about the one by Pablo Diaz, by Juan Blanco. He asked if basically the one is the composition of antipatterns, like in general, doesn't matter which one it is.
Correct. Correct. So this could be any combination of any number. So you can have all of them in just any combination. We just picked the giant and the FreeRide because they are in the definition. But this is an example. Could be any.
All right, and no more questions so far.
Nice. So dun. Let's keep going on the Flash. So the Flash are those two. By the way, Pablo, I don't know. Do you want to comment something around those patterns, or I can move on?
No. Let's move on. No, we can talk
Okay.
all of them together if you want.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, the Flash. So on the series, if you're coming on the series with us, or if you're reading the text mode, like the blog posts, uh, the the anti-patterns that we are seeing are really restricted to, uh, I would say, advanced ways, like how you perceive something that's hard to test, and somehow they, from this list and from what we present here, they are not that related with more the, I would say, soft part, or how you learn how to avoid, or how you learn to spot those patterns. And the flash, if you start to do an exercise, or we already mentioned in the beginning that those are usually related to test last in the code, or where you are writing the feature. And this happens because sometimes there's no experience, or this happens because, well, the setup doesn't help us to test. And usually, this is more on the soft part, like how you learn, how you do things. And during this process, we can also spot some, well, let's say, anti-patterns, but this would be like some common patterns when you start to go from a more test-first approach. And this, the flash, is when that is related to when you have something that you want to test. You don't break this into chunks, so you don't break this in small pieces. So, for example, or you don't start in a small step. So, for example, the Jenkins example, from the beginning, it was clear that it wasn't starting from a small piece of the code. So, for example, testing the compatibility tool. So it wasn't like, oh, let me see, is this compatible, for example, with Maven? Let's see if this test will pass with Maven, and then go up in the hierarchy. So this is what we are calling like the flash. So you avoid like this step, and then move on, and try to rush up the flow. And this is related with the something that Kent Beck wrote on, what is the name of the book? TDD by example, the baby steps. He wrote that when you get started with with TDD, that if something is complicated, or if something you see like is too much to test, or you see some things like that, try to do baby steps, like small, or as by the definition here is like small chunks. So try to go piece by piece. Don't try to rush. And this is linked to when you start to test first, or when you try to start to write the test. Usually, a common pattern is for us to think about writing everything at once, and then start from the generalization. So, for example, starting from the interface, or starting from the abstract class, or starting from like a really abstract, or like the gang of four patterns. Let's use 7 interfaces or stuff like that. Or let's go and try to start from the performance. Like this is not even an issue when you're starting with the test first. Well, let's start to go for a small piece, and then iterate over it. So this is kind of a skipping, hushing up the flow, the TDD flow. And then the flash can also potentially lead, if you see like you're hushing up, or if you see like you're trying to do something that is really hard, or something like that. This can also potentially lead to other sets of anti-patterns, or patterns that make code hard to test. So the flash is something like that. So it tries to give you a broader view on the process of writing the test, from the test first, and identify those, like to not jump into the too far away before you get the first stair, right? So don't run, don't try to start to go up in the stair from the last floor. So we start from the first floor, and then go bit by bit. And this is also related to the one that we saw. And then we have the jumper. So the jumper is more related to the practice itself. The jumper, we relate something like jumping out on each step of the TDD flow. So we know like the TDD flow, the classic one is red, green, and refactor. In this flow, the jumper usually comes on the process that you jump one step before you go ahead into the green, for example, before going to the red one, for example. So when you have a test case that's passing before failing, this is something like related. And as I mentioned, the jumper is related with this famous picture. I think we are using this picture on the XP meetups as well. And potentially this is the flow that Nacho is following on the katas in the Go katas project. So why I picked this one? Because let's try to mitigate some common issues that can potentially lead to the jumper. So a common pattern is to try perfect from the start. So don't try to make perfect. Like just write the code. There is a test, and just try to write the code and see if it is how the code feels like. And then if you try to think too much, like on this step on the red one, you want to make it perfect. So then, as a consequence, you're going to get blocked because you don't know what to test because you're thinking to have everything perfect from the start. And then, if you start to think about that, like as this goes on the way, like that, so you start to jumping on the steps. So because you get blocked by not knowing what to code or to make perfect from the start, you start to change pieces of other areas of the code that is not related. You just wanted to test something, to write some tests that is in red. So ideally, potentially, you would have something like it's not compiling even, but then we start to change some files that are not related. And then this is interesting because yesterday, we are recording this on 26, and yesterday, Dave also shared his thoughts on this kind of flows or jumping out and stuff like that. And here, what I'm referencing as anti-pattern, he references as something that common mistakes that beginners make while trying to test drive the application. But well, don't try to jump that. Don't try to go from the test first and just see how it is red. It's like just see the test failing for the right reason and then move on to the green one. Okay, let's see that. Let's say that we got this. So we have the test failing for the right reason. So no test failing for compiling reasons. So we have the outcome. And then we have like the next one that's trying to jump the steps on the green. And then we try to jump the step that is writing code that enough code that makes the test pass. And this means even hard coding. So if the hard code makes the test pass, so let's see if the feedback make the hard code, write down the hard code, and see it passing, see it passing, see it green, and then move on. But usually, this is perceived as, but of course, I know that it will pass, right? So just try to keep it simple, and then make it pass, and then move on to the refactor phase. And then the last one is the refactor. So the refactor is more difficult, but usually the refactor is something that could potentially lead on something that you start from the green test, and then you see that the test fails because you did a refactor, and you don't immediately roll back what you did. You just try to dive in on the reasons for this test to fail. If this is a refactor, so just don't touch other parts, so don't try to find the root causes, but rather try to start from the scratch, remove, roll back, clean up the assumptions, and start again. Don't try to jump that, or to go to the previous step, to go to the instead of making the refactor, the refactor successfully, and then go to the red. Uh, do the refactor, make it green, and then start the red again. Don't do the opposite. Start the refactor, and then becomes this the red state, and then write a new test. So just make the scenarios like as clean as possible, or as smooth as possible. Well, and that's it. Is the jumper. The jumper is something that is ongoing, is in process. But actually, this is something like to try to remove the hard decisions on the anti-partners that we not hard decisions. So the hard criteria to say that this is an anti-pattern or not. Well, so that's it. We don't have those were the two more that we introduced today, and those are the what we saw: the one, the pimping tom, the flash, and the jumper. And remember, I think someone is with the mic open. I don't know if we can mute. That's really nice. And then remember that this is a video format, but we are also doing some blog posts, like some format on the blog post. And the blog usually comes with more detailed information, because we don't have like this time box to be in. Those are the resources from Codurance around testing, and also come and join us in the other workshops and events. So here, I think the next one is going to be with Nacho. It's here facilitating. So thanks for facilitating this meeting, and he's hosting a Go Katas series as well. And well, that's it. So that's it from my side. I don't have anything else to add. And that's it. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Mateos, Pablo, Ignacio, for joining us, and everybody that's been participating in this session. It's a mix of feelings getting to this last episode, but it's been amazing having you. As Mateo said, this record is going to be, this session is recorded, so we are going to share it, and also you can see it on demand. We have a lot of events, and we want to welcome you to all of these events that we're preparing for you. So thank you for being here. Ignacio, I don't know if you have something to add.
I think all was covered, but I'll just want to invite anyone interested in the Go programming language to join the next session on the 14th of June.
Yes, we have
We're
a
going to
kata with
cover,
Go, and
yeah, some
Ignacio is
interesting
hosting
stuff.
it. So come and watch it too. And thanks to Pablo from Firminic for being here and for joining us. So thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.